to the High Ground Podcast. Let's see if we can do this one. Halloween!
Ooh.
So, The Shining, book to screen.
Shit film.
Screen to book.
Actually, awful film.
Yeah. It is a terrible film. Stanley Kubrick's overrated movie, which...
Yeah, done. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's it. We're done. So,
We are obviously joking.
yeah. Again, spoilers in effect.
Yep. But it is a 41-year-old film, so...
Yeah. So, if you're listening to this...
If you've been spoiled by this.
Yeah. So, I read the book.
Yeah? What do you think?
I found it a lot more scarier than the movie.
Oh, it's way more scary than the movie, yeah. But scarier in a different way.
Yeah. Because then I watched Room 237 as well again. I watched it before the documentary.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's sort of like... Yeah, because I wanted to, because we're Halloween and we do a celebration of horror in this, as we always do on Halloween. And The Shining is going to be one of the movies we're going to be watching. We're not going to commentary track this one because we've got some more that's coming up. We're going to save that for
research this one.
Yeah, The Shining. There's so much been said about it, but I read the book the ending being different, the characters, and
yeah, it's basically the ending of Doctor Sleep.
Yeah.
Where the hotel blows up, isn't it? But yeah, no, it's quite different, isn't it? There is stuff that's the same, but there's especially more about how menacing Jack is as a character in there. It's all sort of implied in the film. But it's totally told to you in the book.
Yeah. And is it supernatural?
Yeah.
The thing is, it was always supernatural, and The Shining in the film, it's how it's only him and the caretaker. The Halloran. They shine, but the fact that they can sense other people that can shine.
Yeah.
And
he also survives in the book as well, doesn't he?
Yeah. And the ending of the book being, sitting with Danny, and the same at the start of the Ghosts of Halloran at the start of Doctor Sleep, the movie.
Yeah.
Which I am going to start reading Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, I haven't read Doctor Sleep actually.
I found the film. The thing about the film that's always got me is the ending where you see Jack in, is it 43?
Yeah.
And the picture, it always freaked me out that he was always there.
Yeah, or it would always happen to someone like that.
Yeah.
Because Grady was the same, wasn't he? Like,
but they were always meant to go to there and go psycho. And Room 217 in the book, Room 237 in the movie, and it's I was more scared of Jack.
Yeah. Beforehand,
and where Jack could go, because Jack's got a temper that he controls, and he's an alcoholic, recovering. Yeah. And I just, even before they get to the Overlook, you're always afraid of what's going to happen if he loses his shit again.
Oh yeah, because it's not told in the film, I don't think, but in the book it tells you that he's broke Danny's arm before.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it does tell you in the film. I don't think it does it?
No.
And that he is just generally like quite abusive to. I mean, you see how abusive he is to Wendy in the film, but
yeah,
it's just. Yeah, he's a much more he's a lot darker, and Stephen King's always said this is his most personal novel. Like, he wasn't abusive to his wife, but he was very addicted to painkillers and alcohol and some drugs, and I think that's why he's so sort of against the Kubrick version, because it is like personal to him. But I don't understand how you could not like the Kubrick version, but maybe it is different reasons than it's not a good film.
Kubrick version is a more diluted down, but
yeah,
it's also its own elements
Kubrick's
into it,
version as well, isn't it? It's not King's.
And they work perfectly as two separate entities. I mean, if Kubrick was to do straight from the book, it would have taken
Yeah.
Some of the things with the bushes shaped like
Oh
animals would
yeah,
never
at
have
the
worked.
time, yeah. It's kind of like, I suppose, how Blade Runner and Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, isn't it? It's like they're totally different, but still the same.
And they're enjoyable.
And yeah,
In
and
their own
often
right.
more successful than their, their pros counterpart.
But I loved it, and Halloran, he's so one track to get to the Overlook,
Yeah,
get back there, and it's just it's superb, and there's more tension, everything, and ghosts that
Yeah.
are in the rather than just being the two girls,
yeah.
and of course in the bar scene,
Yeah,
Grady.
you don't really see that many of them in the film. Like, you see them sort of in quick flashes, don't you? But
And of course Room 237, of course.
yeah, and that's also based on a real thing where Stephen King and his wife stayed at this hotel for a vacation during the winter, and they weren't the only ones there. There was like a few other people there, but they said basically like they had dinner in an empty ballroom, and I think it just sort of got Stephen King's creative gears going. Like, what if you were stuck in a haunted hotel? And there was a room they were told not to go into because there'd been a murder there or something like that. Like, it's just all the seeds are there, like, for what really happened. And also, I'm glad they didn't do the fire extinguisher snake thing as well. That kind of reads as a bit silly now. Like, I mean, it works in the book, but like the hedge animals, if you did that now, it would still kind of look a bit weird, I think.
It wouldn't work.
No, I love in the film the way that Kubrick films the maze, like Jack's looking over the maze and their tiny little figures. I think that's amazing.
He's the predator.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the film is. I mean, that had been up until last year. It's been like a long time, over 20 years since the scene in Shining last, if not longer. And when you watch the movie, it's a piece of art. That's one of the times you can actually say this is filmmaking as an art form, and how in certain shots the overlook is different from the actual real hotel. And when you see the mock-up Elstree, it's different. Then there's absolutely no logic to the interiors. And Kubrick was so meticulous. Everything is intentional.
Yeah.
And it's
Kubrick's so OCD that there's a story that when Jack's writing on the typewriter, we don't know what he's writing at the time, but afterwards it's the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. But Kubrick actually typed that out himself on a typewriter. When they're filming, they kind of says, "Oh yeah, just type away Jack, and we'll film it." And Kubrick actually said, "No, you need to type the actual letters, because I used to be a journalist and I know how the letter keys sound on each typewriter." And everyone was kind of like, "Come on, Stanley, like, you don't need to be that fucking anal about it." But that's how much of a control freak he was, and everyone knows about his multiple takes thing as well, don't they? Which could sometimes go into, I don't know, to hundreds sometimes.
And he drove Shelley Duvall to the brink.
I don't really agree with that. I think that's a bit sort of. I don't know if Jack Nicholson did as well, or whether it was just her, but Jack Nicholson doesn't really need to do much acting to be like that, does he?
Oh, he was good.
He was a good actor, wasn't he, back in the day?
Yeah. Come on, who's the if you? I mean, we've said it before on the Batman podcast. You go and look at his Joker. He's as menacing as anything that's came since.
Yeah. Because it's fucking Jack Nicholson playing Jack Nicholson.
But some of his actions.
Yeah.
It's Jack Nicholson's Joker.
He's always been a really intense actor, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, and it's always what he's been known for. I think he's perfect for that role. Yes. He's always called Jack in everything as well, isn't it? Like, it's just they're admitting it's just him.
Yeah. He's good, and the changing the roquet mallet to
an axe.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, that's another thing people would probably laugh at now, isn't it?
Yeah, if you came with doing it with that, it would.
Yeah.
And it's just that I thought, with the book, of course, you've got the character development and everything,
Yeah.
and how he's being persuaded by is it Grady or
Yeah.
Lloyd
That-
to actually move up the ladder so that he can become the boss of the hotel,
yeah.
and
To
he's
give into it.
yeah, and he has to, and he thinks that they're all after him. He's so self-absorbed, but they're really after Danny,
Yeah.
and it's sort of like he has to kill Danny so that as a sacrifice
So
for
it's
them.
more.
So he's
Yeah.
so he's just and it's that book. I'll give you that. It's the backstory that makes Jack in the book
Yeah.
more. But when he
Menacing.
starts,
You've got more time to do that in a book, though. You can go into like internal monologues, and it's not really something you can do in a film without doing a flashback. And sometimes that's a bit. You get into cliche territory with flashbacks, don't you? You know, like they're always sepia toned and or black and white or blurry or whatever. Whereas in a book, you can kind of like you can do a whole chapter of someone just thinking about something for a second, and you can get into people's headspaces a lot better. And same with like if you read the books for Game of Thrones, like there's so much more you get out of their internal monologues that the show has to do with flashbacks. And it's just something like the medium has over film. But then film has over books that it's more visual, and you can do more stuff with the overlook itself that can make you scared more than the book. You know, like in the film, you're scared about every corner Danny goes around on the little bike, aren't you?
and the sound design on it
Yeah,
is
I know.
perfect. When it goes
It's
from
just the
wood
same
to the
Family
concrete.
Guy fucking ruined it with that.
Yeah.
With Stewie going around on it. But no, that's I mean, and the two little girls as well.
Yeah.
They're creepy as, aren't they?
That works better. It does.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you've got the original cut that
Which
Kubrick took
I
back,
haven't seen actually.
which we will be doing. We'll hopefully
Yeah.
do a podcast for it afterwards. We will probably into November when we do that one.
Yeah.
But the extended cut, it tells the additions into it. You think, well, I'm glad they cut it because it made it more of a streamlined entity.
Yeah.
And it's that's why I always say you got the director's cut, which is the theatrical, and you got the extended cut, which is the original. So, and it works. I mean, they are. It's not like the reason I wanted to do this podcast is because if you look at something like Jaws, which you told me going into it that you're going to prefer the movie to it.
Oh yeah, the book. Yeah.
And when you watch it, there's no likable characters other than
No.
other than the shark.
It's
The
not
shark's
that
more
well written,
likable.
to be honest. I don't think.
I didn't like the characters.
As much as Stephen King, he gets so slated so badly for being a bad writer, and he's really not.
No.
Like, I think he's been called like the Big Mac and Chips of American literature before, and he's said before, I'm okay with that. Like, how many people spend money on Big Mac and Chips? You know, like, he's the easiest guy to read that I've ever read in my life. I read it, and that's 1,300 odd pages in a month.
Damn.
That's how good he is. Like his prose just comes off the page. You're just flipping pages. You're flipping 10 pages in 2 to 3 minutes because he just writes so well. Like the internal monologues are done like separate to the main text, so you can internalize them yourself. And he writes honestly, and you know he's been sort of accused of being sexist and you know the usual shit that people get accused of now, and like racist and that. But you know a lot of his stuff's set in the 50s, and you know like back in the day when he wrote them, that's what people did speak like.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that because that's how they're just sort of people write what they know, don't they? And he's honestly like the best structured writer I've ever read. I mean, you could read something like Pride and Prejudice and it's a third the length of it, and it'll take you longer because it's just you're just like, what is going on here, and why do they speak funny and stuff like that, you know. Whereas you read something like, I don't know, I even read like Salem's Lot. Like the tension in that is perfect until you even see the first vampire, and it's amazing, and it's something that actually the miniseries lost in its adaptation of that. I quite like the miniseries, but it's just weird seeing Starsky running around killing vampires. But yeah, no, it's just something Stephen King does well a lot. I think that it kind of wouldn't have worked if they'd adapted The Shining straight off, like you said. I think Kubrick Kubrick does Kubrick, doesn't he? So
Yeah, if it would have been too, too many foreshadowing what's coming. And
Yeah.
you just need.
and it's personal for King, not Kubrick.
Yeah.
It's not Kubrick's. Well, it is. The film is Kubrick's story.
Yeah, and if you
Like-
if you watch Room 237, you've got the whole thing about was it Native Americans? You've
And
got
the moon landing.
the
Yeah.
moon landing, and you watch Room 237.
It is quite good, actually, isn't it?
It is.
It's funny. Like the idea about like you said it earlier, didn't you? That the internal space of the hotel doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
but like you say, it's got to be deliberate with Kubrick, hasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, I think they say the thing at the start where he has the interview, something about like the window outside doesn't make sense, or
No.
it's not that it's not facing that way, so why is there a window or something like that? And it's just got to be deliberate. Like it's got to be Kubrick just saying, well, this whole place is fucked. Like, and your mind will be after this is finished.
And then there's the whole thing that if you play the film backwards and forwards at the same time and superimpose them onto each other, you've got the.
They make perfect sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the whole Wizard of Oz lines up with Dark Side of the Moon,
Yeah.
isn't it? I don't know if that's deliberate or whether that's just a hell of a coincidence.
I think you read too much into things and you can see things that aren't there.
I think so. Yeah, well, apparently you can watch the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, and they perfectly line up as well.
That would not surprise me.
But that's Lucas. That's got to be deliberate.
Yeah. You could watch The Force Awakens and just basically watch A New Hope.
Yeah, it's just a remake, literally.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, like say about adaptations, a lot of Kubrick's work is adaptations. Like Clockwork Orange was a novel. 2001 was kind of written at the same time as the film. You know, a lot of his stuff. Spartacus is I think it's a novel. So he's not averse to doing adaptations, but he's the only director I've ever seen that makes you think, wow, there was a book.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like, or if you read the book, you're like, oh my. Oh, Doctor Strangelove is another good example.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's nothing like the book. It's just his own twisted vision of it. Like the book's not funny, but the film is hilarious. And if you've not seen that, it's just it's sort of a good precursor to The Shining because it's sort of claustrophobic and it's in a lot of closed rooms and I mean it is. Have you seen it?
No, it's on my
Yeah,
watch list.
it's
though.
good. It's James Earl Jones' debut film. As well.
Nice. I mean, I've got it in my head. I'm trying to watch films now and read books of them just to say that I've actually done it, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I read the book.
It's a good. It's one of King's best actually.
Yeah.
When he was really focused in his first early 70s into mid 80s period.
I mean, going back to the movie after watching Doctor Sleep after over 20 years, and seeing The Shining for what it is, which is a work, like I said, is a piece of art. That's art. Filmmaking is art, and to call it a horror movie doesn't do it.
No, it's kind of.
And there's the doors. This is where we do a podcast, and we do it all in these. So one
Got a
second.
special delivery.
Oh, thank you very much. This is what happens when you do things in one take.
You get
So-
special deliveries from Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, Amazon, the answer to everything.
Is that Doctor Sleep?
No, Doctor Sleep is we have Doctor Sleep.
What, the book?
I have it right just there behind you. You can't see it because this is audio, but I do have the book, and I will be reading it. See, anytime, but yeah.
I tell you what is really good as well. When you watch them both back to back, they make so much more sense. It's like watching all the Matrix films back to back. You have no break between them, so you're going straight into the next one, and it's really good. I really thought Ewan McGregor did a great job in that actually.
Oh, he's brilliant. But if you watch it without seeing Doctor Sleep, I watched it without seeing The Shining,
Yeah.
and that got me into wanting to watch The Shining, and it does make a lot more sense. But
Yeah.
if you do have that period where it's like Trainspotting and Trainspotting 2.
Yeah.
Trainspotting is a good film that I hadn't watched it since I saw it at the cinema in 95, 96. So to see Trainspotting 2 and not seeing Renton, Spud, Sick Boy and Begbie and all that time, and then to see them all these years later when they haven't seen each other in all that time, that works.
It's like real time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, that's why I love Trainspotting 2, and I think it's, in my honest opinion, it's better than Trainspotting 1.
And it was like kind of like American Pie the reunion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, where you haven't seen them for a long time and no one's where they should be and or want to be. It's that sort of similar thing, isn't it?
And that film, it has a real heart.
Yeah,
does.
but I wouldn't necessarily say you like had to know everything about The Shining to watch Doctor Sleep, but it just gives you that more complete view, doesn't it?
It does.
Like who's this dead black guy that he's talking to?
It's more the stuff that's actually in the Overlook itself.
Yeah, yeah.
That is
Because that whole scene at the end is like a fangasm when you've seen the first one. You're like, oh my god, they've come back.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm curious as how they're going to end the book.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, so I need to read it as well, actually.
But it's, and the carpet changed. You know,
yeah, like with the little trike.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good, the sound design, isn't it? Everything is just perfection when it's Kubrick, isn't it? Like it has to be done until there's no more like takes left in you. Like it's immense, like the amount of work he puts into things.
It's like Blade Runner. You know, I took years to actually read Do Androids Dream Electric Sheep.
Yeah.
And it is a separate entity, and it is a completely separate entity to Blade Runner.
Yeah.
But I love Blade Runner, and I loved that book. I thought it was just same with The Shining. I don't, having read the book, I don't think any less of the movie. It is a complete masterpiece. But I'm glad I've read the book.
Yeah.
It is one that I would highly recommend. And I'm not really much of a reader, which is my thing that I don't like about myself, because I don't read as much as I should do. But yeah,
it's kind of like the other piece of the puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you kind of get why certain things happen in a certain way in either work now.
Yeah.
Sort of they complement each other, really, don't they? It's just, it's like when you go back to the adaptation of anything, like we said about Jaws. Like I'm also, although I didn't really like the book, I'm glad I did read it just for the experience of knowing why they changed certain things and why they didn't. You know, it's just, you can see the adaptation process as it happens then.
Hooper and Ellen Brody were unlikable characters.
We might do an episode on that, actually, because I've got lots to say about that.
But one thing that I really liked about the book, and it wouldn't have translated to the movie, was the history of the Overlook.
Yeah.
And Jack's trying to find out all about,
you know, in the scrapbook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And looking for everything, and you know, the boss thinks he's going to blackmail him or anything. And I thought that it was good, but like I said, I do prefer the streamlined version of the movie, the Stanley Kubrick cut of the movie, rather than
you don't know what's.
Yeah. Because when it's telegraphed too much in the extended cut, which we will be watching, it just.
See, that's a point where novel can suffer if they don't give you enough information.
Yeah.
You can't do what you do in films where you info dumps in books can be boring. In films you can lighten it up with the blackboard in Raiders or in A New Hope with the holograms and stuff like that. But in books you can easily bore people with info dumps. It's why sci-fi used to get a bad name for a long time, because all it would be is scientists explaining something and then, oh, we better go do that.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's better because you're trying to get a history behind why this place has bad vibes. And I think aren't the mob involved as well or something?
They were in one of the murders.
Yeah, see, I think that would seem kind of cliche in the film.
Yeah.
But it works for the book.
Because they add up to all the ghosts and all the timelines that are running on top of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it does add to the, whereas it's Jack in the book, it's Jack and all these spirits that are shining.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just Danny that's got the shine, and the spirit and Jack going nuts because of the energy that's.
Yeah, I think like the essential implication is always that he is nuts.
Yeah.
And he is about to go nuts anyway. It's just this drove him quicker, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I like there's a bit at the end of the book as well they don't have in the film where he returns to himself just for like an instant, and he tells Danny to get out, like, and that he loves him. And I think that's quite a heartwarming moment. It's quite sad as well, you know, because that guy is in there somewhere. He's just so full of rage and so full of hate and anger, isn't he? And we know what hate and anger leads to.
Oh yeah, that's another Star Wars reference.
Well, Ewan McGregor's in. He's
that's
Dr.
true.
Sleep, so.
It's in the book. It's Jack is possessed. Who's already, like you said, he's already troubled. He's already troubled, and he's always got a violent streak.
Yeah.
But you know, more in the film, it's like he's going slow because they've been bound in together, and the madness is more. Yeah. And it works. Both work. They do.
Does, yeah.
When you've got this powerful force that's. And in the book it says about how Anthony is Danny's middle name.
Yeah.
And it works so.
And he actually has like a form, doesn't he? Like it describes what he looks like, whereas it works better in the film where he's just sort of moving his finger.
Yeah.
You know, because kids do have imaginary friends, don't they?
But his imaginary friend seems to be a future interpretation of himself.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And not just God.
Yeah.
Sorry. But, yeah, no, I mean, I'm assuming, like, in the book of Dr. Sleep as well. Because, I mean, in the film he helps old people die, doesn't he? Like, if they're in pain and that. So I'm assuming, like, in the book it's the same, like, it's the same sort of plot, but just, I don't know, books are always going to be different slightly, aren't they? I think the ending will have to be different because the Overlook blew up at the end of the book, didn't it? So
it reminds me of Superman, the Donner cut, how he got the same ending as Superman because they didn't complete the Richard Donner version of Superman 2.
Yeah.
Because he had to take Superman 2's ending and put it on Superman 1. And I think that's why I'm looking forward to reading the ending to find out
how
it worked perfectly that you got all these spirits that are all, because they're blowing up their overlook, it works perfectly that they're all going to be trapped in this one space.
There's something spooky as well about the idea that buildings retain memories and experiences, and that's what ghosts are. I just think that's such a great explanation for the supernatural, like, because it's almost science fiction, isn't it? Like, because he's psychic.
Yeah.
But you know, one thing King's really good at is reworking old tropes in new forms. You know, we've got the psychokinesis with Carrie. It's just a metaphor for bullying. You know, vampires in Salem's Lot, they're in a small, what would happen if they weren't in a big castle in Transylvania, but what if they were in a small shitty town in America, you know?
Or like Staten Island.
Yeah, almost. Get your what we do in the shadows reference. And you know, like, he plays with old tropes like that, and he reworks them so very well that he almost creates new ones, you know, like It as well, you know, shapeshifting. And he's not really even a clown for that long in the book, but it's the central image everyone has of Tim Curry, isn't it? And I think that's just one of his strengths, that he does take old things and he makes them new for new audiences. He does it with ghosts here, because the ghosts are always just reflections of us, aren't they?
I like the whole thing you said about logic to the whole energy thing, and it makes perfect sense. And you know, and when you see things like, when you read things like that, you know, that they're not actually, well, and the ones that shine are, you know, they can actually control, but the whole idea that there are ghosts or spirits, that there is an energy there that's just something that they're left behind.
Keeps them there. I think the scrapbook is another good metaphor, actually, because it's the idea that the building itself is the scrapbook, and Danny's seeing the photos is the shine. The shine is like psychic photographs of what happened before, and like it's the idea that the Victorians used to have, where they used to think that a person's last memory would be implanted on their eye as the last thing they saw, and you could actually take a picture of this. They tried it with Jack the Ripper's victim to see if they could see who it was. Obviously, like, we know that's not true now, but it's quite an intriguing thing, isn't it, to think that there are psychic images left behind of things, and it goes with the whole, like, energy of a place, doesn't it?
Which that we'll save energy. That's going on to another little area which would yeah, it's something I really don't want to touch right now on the High Ground podcast
Yeah.
because we could go into an area which could get us into a lot of trouble because we're dealing with religion and everything like that, and that can be the ring that can basically destroy careers.
They control the world. What?
They can. It's because if we start
We don't
doing,
mess with cults.
you don't mess. And this is what I always find is if you say something. I mean, I know we're going off the subject a little bit, but sort of, because look at the book burnings with Harry Potter for a start.
Yeah.
And anytime someone says something was it? Which one was it? Didn't Stephen King agree with something J.K. Rowling said once, and he got blackballed?
Yeah, it was something to do with transphobia, wasn't it, or something? No, was it? I can't remember.
Before that, something. Either that was they were trolled, or either both of them got. I know they did. Do
I know
something.
he wasn't a fan of
Trump, and I
either,
was.
he?
So it's kind of you have to be very careful, or your career can end before it even starts. But yeah,
he's actually a really funny guy as well. If you watch a lot of his interviews and stuff he said before, he just looks like he just likes a good time. Like he's a lot of the stuff in his books is done like he calls his readers dear reader, and that he addresses like his introductions to personally to you, and he knows the fact that like most people are just casual readers. They're not like he scoffs at critics and people saying his books are rubbish, and he just says, "Oh, that's fine. They can say whatever they want. You know, I love writing them for you. You're the people I write it for. I don't write it for them."
that's how it should be.
Yeah, and it is. I think a lot of authors do just pander to critics.
Yeah.
Like they write critically acclaimed things because all critics like me. But does anyone else?
Critically acclaimed can be boring.
Yeah.
We sit through a critically. You don't see some lowbrow movie. We go, oh, it's critically acclaimed. It's like you can find. I'm off the top of my head, Harold and Kumar. And you think that film's got a heart, but a lot of people just see it as a teen comedy.
Yeah, toilet humour.
Yeah, but that would never ever get.
I don't know. You can be like literarily creative, and you can stand for all your morals, but you can also die in poverty when you do that. So,
one person bought your book. Critics may have loved it, but one person.
Exactly.
You look at.
I'm not saying it's just about money, but if you want to be a successful author, you want to make money, don't you?
Yeah.
And you do have to pander sometimes to the market. I'm not saying you have to just write Twilight books when Twilight's popular, or sex books when 50 Shades is popular, but you have researched the market and you see what's popular, and maybe you do the opposite. You don't just want to get on the Sunday Times best list, do you? You do it for your readers.
Yeah, look how critically acclaimed 50 Shades was, and like how many copies that sold.
Yeah, I know. And Jesus Christ, have you ever read it? It's so bad written.
I saw the film, and when she
That's
says,
the second time we've mentioned that today.
Yeah, which is horror. Which is that's why I want to define 50 Shades as 50 Shades as the best psychological horror. The movie. I'm not going to read the bloody book. I'll tell you now.
Yeah.
It is. I define that in terms of reality. That is a real horror movie because it's a woman seduced by a maniac.
Yeah.
Who's a control freak who just wants to whip her for his own sexual gratification. Okay, I've got nothing wrong with kinky sex and everything, but to be dominated and everything like that and come back for more.
Yeah.
And do everything that he says. That's kind of
like I said,
abusive.
I love Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
Why is Heathcliff a romantic hero? If I went around beating women up, I'd be a horrible arsehole.
Yeah.
Why is he a fucking sex symbol? I don't get it.
Makes no sense. Especially now with the Me Too movement.
Oh, Wuthering Heights would never fly now.
Coming soon to a cinema near you.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't adapted it again.
350 Shades films, and women just flock to it.
Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't like. I mean, I get like. She's obviously a clever woman. She found a niche that women like, and she exploited it to the best of her abilities. Like yeah, that's fine. That's what people artists do. But good God, is it badly written? funniest thing I've ever heard that turns into a comedy is George Takei reading it. It's the funniest thing you've ever heard in your life. He just reads like really explicit passages and goes, "Oh my," and it's just, oh, George Takei, I love you. Don't ever die.
Oh, he's cool. I read there's a line in one of the episodes of What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series, second season, when you find out that Laszlo had done porn.
Right.
And Nadia's goes, I don't. It's not the fact that he's done porn that doesn't bother me. It's the fact that it's boring.
50 Shades in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the vampire porn. Why did we go from The Shining and Stephen King to vampire porn?
I don't know. He's pretty explicit in his sex scenes.
Yeah. So, anything else we can say? Because this is pretty much on the fly.
I think we've just basically said everything. Do you know what I've just realised, and it's just blown my mind? Because you've got IMDb up. The guy that plays Ullman, the guy who gives him the job, Barry Nelson.
Yeah.
That's the guy that played Jimmy Bond.
Oh god! Oh, we've done a podcast. Jimmy Bond
I
in
just realised.
on Casino Royale.
Yeah, climax.
Yeah. Let's see what he says. We're just gonna. We're entitled to do this because our podcast. Can you see it on
Yeah,
here?
there it is. Climax.
Climax. That is actually the name of the series. Casino
Yeah,
Royale.
that's what I was watching. More 50 Shades.
1954 Casino Royale. American Spy. James Bond must outsmart card whiz and crime boss Le Chiffre while monitoring his actions.
Wow. That took a weird turn, didn't it?
Yeah. Check out our No Time to Die podcast, which we've done, which has got full of spoilers. And it leads on to next year when we do our James Bond thing. That's a gratuitous plug for James Bond 60. Then, I always said Callum here is the king of James Bond trivia. And no one will beat him.
Too kind.
No, it's true. It is true. I will one of these days. You've just proven that I will catch you out. Just not today. Damn. So, that's The Shining book and
a bit of James
screen
Bond.
and a bit of James Bond, which No Time to Die still in cinemas if you're listening. If not, it's on Blu-ray or streaming or whatever. Depending on when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're actually
Us from the future.
yeah. So I'm Stevie.
And Callum.